he's, one of the greatest of all time. I think he's incredible. I don't think he's the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. For anybody to call Islam the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world when John Jones is still fighting is nuts and shouldn't be ranking in the pound-for-pound or doing any of the rankings ever, if that's what you really think. John Jones has never lost a fight ever. He's fought all the baddest dudes in the world. And then when you think about what pound-for-pound rankings really mean, he moved it up to heavyweight and destroyed the best guy in the world. As long as John Jones is still fighting active and in the rankings, yeah, nobody's pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. I mean, when you think about what pound-for-pound really means, right? He fought Volkanovski, who was a weight class lower than him. John Jones beat everybody at light heavyweight, then beat the best heavyweight in the division like it was nothing at a higher weight class. So, John Jones is absolutely positively the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world, probably the greatest fighter of all time in any sport. When you talk about who's the baddest dude in the world, you put two guys in a room and who walks out, John Jones walks out of the fucking room every time. Through the number one guy in the heavyweight division like it was nothing, with 3 years off. Yeah, John Jones is the best ever. Ever. And when I say ever, I mean in any combat sport.
What the hell is Dana White talking about, man? John Jones hasn't been active for over a year and a half now. And I don't know if Dana White is gaslighting us, I don't know if he's trying to build some hype for the Stipe versus Jones fight, which still hasn't been announced yet, by the way. And look, dude, John Jones has some years where he was the best fighter on the planet, but those days are long gone. He's still great, it seems, but not the best when it comes to the skill set. Dana White is trying to hype up this fight with a 42-year-old Stipe by claiming he's still on top, even though he's been inactive for 4 years with only one fight. Well, according to Dana, to be on the GOAT list, you need to move up to the heavyweight division and beat one of the best heavyweights. Honestly, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard from him. Pound for pound rankings don't work like that. Now, the point that Dana made is that he said that Jones beat the number 1 ranked heavyweight. Obviously, he's referring to Ciryl Gane after a 3-year layoff. But let's be real, before Gane fought Jones, he almost lost to Tai Tuivasa. And before that, he lost to Francis Ngannou. You just know if Dana White was asked about that, he'd say something like, Jones beat the number 1 heavyweight, the guy who just dismantled Tai Tuivasa in France. And everyone knows how great Tai Tuivasa is. Tai is on a 4-fight losing streak, by the way. And honestly, the biggest knock in Jones' career is that he didn't fight Francis. Jones didn't fight for 3 years, in fact. The so-called best fighter in the world won't even fight the interim champion, which is Tom Aspinall, but instead wants to fight an old, out of prime Stipe Miocic. And I don't know, at this point, it doesn't seem to be comparable to Islam. Jones isn't active. Let's not forget that this guy has popped for PEDs multiple times, and I like how the company of the UFC keeps dodging that. They just keep promoting this guy as the best fighter to ever live. And this is just my opinion. I feel like if you pop for steroids, you can't really be the pound for pound best fighter or the number 1 fighter in the world because you cheated. And you want to know something that I find very interesting? This is something I never understood, okay? How does TJ get flamed and get denied his legacy from the fans and somewhat the promotion for popping for steroids, but somehow Jones gets praised? And I feel like a lot of people forget how many times Jones popped, man. Hell, Anderson Silva gets more flack than John Jones. And look, I know Jones was extremely good at one point. The dude has a great resume, but at this point, when you compare the two, one is active and one isn't. Islam is active. He should be the current best pound for pound fighter in the world when it comes to his skill set. He's great everywhere, probably the most well-rounded fighter since GSP. And when you compare Jones and Islam from their last 4 fights, Islam has more elite wins recently. With Dustin Poirier, he's a former pound for pound number 5, Alex Volkanovski, who at one point was pound for pound number 1, and Charles Oliveira, who was pound for pound number 3. And when you compare that to Jones's last 4 fights, which is Ciryl Gane, Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, and Anthony Smith, none of those fighters were ever in the pound for pound list, unlike Islam's opponents. Islam fought the best fighters in the world, and he's been fighting in arguably the hardest division in the UFC, which is the lightweight division. Dude, I'm convinced that Dana White still thinks it's freaking 2015 at this point, man. I think another thing that Dana White said was that Islam had to beat someone in the weight class below him, referring to Alex Volkanovski, which is obviously a freaking dumb take to say, because wasn't that entire fight promoted as the number 1 pound for pound fighting the number 2 pound for pound fighter? This fight was arguably the most skilled fight we've ever seen in the UFC history, I would say. At this point, Dana White is just saying stuff just to promote Jones versus Stipe, and I'm gonna prove it by showing this right here.
Man, the idea of a John Jones fight seems awfully exciting right now. John came out, tweeted, said, "Show me the money." What appeals to you most? Because it seems like that would be an amazing super fight.
If I'm John Jones and I'm home watching this fight, I start moving to 85.
You think that's a fight that you'd like to put together next? I mean, I know we don't matchmake, but that sure does seem exciting.
Listen, I can sit here all day and tell you, what show me the money mean. I tell you guys this all the time. You can say you want to fight somebody, but do you really want to?
And John Jones has been willing and ready and able to fight anybody. He didn't care who it was. Could have been anybody in the heavyweight division. He was ready to go.
Oh, he's got it in his head that there's bigger opportunities outside the UFC with, lesser opponents.
And did this just come down to a dollar figure? I mean, or was it like other things, like
No.
I want a bigger portion of pay-per-view?
I think that
You're going to fight arguably the greatest fighter of all time. You'd be the highest paid heavyweight ever in UFC history. Or you think there's more money out there to fight somebody who isn't the greatest of all time, somebody who is a lesser opponent.
I think it's quite obvious that it changed because Francis left and they really wanted to make Jones seem like he was the greatest active fighter to ever live. And I get it. He's salty, and I feel like he's feeling the narrative shift from the fans changing, since majority of the MMA fans are mad that Jones is choosing an easier option and trying to take advantage of an old, past his prime heavyweight. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. What do you guys think of the entire situation? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you on my next one.